Joining me now is James Hohman, Director of Fiscal Policy, Mackinac Center for Public Policy. I work alongside him. I do digital, social, other things there as well. Good to have you, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, big question. In the news over the last few days, and for those of you who don't know, there is a project in Genesee County, Michigan called a mega site. Well, first of all, let's define what is a mega site for people who really don't know. What is a definition in Michigan standard terms?
It's more than a site, I guess. I'm not sure what our lawmakers mean for this process, nor do I understand if these things are so economically important to companies, why we have to spend so many hundreds of millions of dollars preparing them for the company's use.
So it's apparently it's a big hunk of land where they're hoping to lure in industry.
Yeah, theoretically, that's the idea, and the theory is that look, if you do enough prep for this, you're going to land one of these big companies. But usually that's done with other taxpayer subsidies as well. And companies have been updating their land for their use for hundreds of years. I don't understand why this is a new taxpayer obligation, and it is a new taxpayer obligation. This isn't a program that we had 5 years ago.
Oh, so this is somewhat new then.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some site preparation stuff that's been in there, but we've been making hundreds of millions of dollars for the Strategic Site Readiness Program. Oh, and that's only been the case since I believe the end of 2022 is when they passed this law. So it's really recent. They've spent a lot of money on this, and I just don't expect it to provide good taxpayer returns.
Okay, because it's caught a lot of attention, and I'm going to bring up a story on the screen. I don't know if you can see it. This is Michigan Capital Confidential wrote about it yesterday. The headline is 259 million in tax funds spent, but Whitmer's Monday mega site has no buyer. So the state of Michigan spends, and it is taxpayer money because there was some disagreement about that. That is taxpayer money, right?
Yeah, it's general fund money. It's your money you pay in income taxes winds up in this fund, and then lawmakers appropriate that to these programs. Corporate income tax too. A big part of the strategic site readiness program was an earmark on corporate income taxes.
Okay. And the promise was to you're going to bring in thousands of jobs and so forth. And and they're actually, in this case, in Genesee County, Michigan, they're buying up homes and they're getting the land like site ready to go. It's like when you go to buy a home, you want it turnkey ready. So they want it turnkey ready for a business, I'm assuming, to come in.
Yeah, that's part of the idea, but I mean, the bigger driver for this is not the theory that we just need to improve land for businesses. It's that our lawmakers just want to make big job deals. They want that big headline that says, "Look, I brought this company. It's going to create 3,000 jobs." And I think they said it was supposed to create 10,000 jobs.
Yeah.
But when you look at these promises that are made when we're subsidizing select companies to lure them to the state, when we look to see whether they deliver on those promises, they rarely do. I looked at the major deals that Michigan made from 2000 to 2020, and I found that for every 1,000 jobs they promised, they only delivered 90 jobs. This is a 91% failure rate. We shouldn't look to try to grow their economy by writing big checks to big companies. We should, and there's a better alternative. That's to create a better business climate for everyone.
I'm going to put a link in here to your study. This is what you're referring to, front page failures.
That's it.
Yeah, 1 out of 11 jobs promised in headlines, and it's very. You took a lot of time on this, going into detail. So I'll put a link for anyone who's watching right now. You can take a look at this study. It's very eye-opening. And I worked in the news before coming to Mackinac, before doing my own content as well on the side. And I cover these news conferences all the time. They would, whatever lawmaker, governor, congressman, congresswoman come out to the site, get some free hot dogs, do a story on, we're bringing 800 jobs to city X or county X. And then we never really reported on it after that.
Yeah, it's easy to cover these job announcements. They're only positive information about that. And it's just hard for these companies to convert those expectations into reality. I mean, if we're saying that it's news when they make these announcements, it's an even bigger news when they don't meet their expectations.
Yeah.
But far more embarrassing to our lawmakers who made these deals. And since it's our lawmakers who get to do the administration and who want to use these to help advance their own political careers to gain more attention for themselves, you're not going to hear about failures as much. But I will credit a lot of news places, like um, even though our lawmakers may not be trying to check up with whether these companies meet their announcements, a lot of journalists have actually noticed when these things do fail. They write about it. That is news. It's just harder news because you don't have the company and the lawmakers making deals, the local development groups make issuing press releases and making it easy for reporters.
You're absolutely correct. And when this study was published, I had a local business person reach out to me in Saginaw County and say, "This isn't fair. Why is this company getting this money or this? Why can't I get in on that game?" And that's kind of what you were talking about. And many people say the government picking winners and losers. And in this guy, he a small business owner, and he said, "I'm not that connected in Lansing. Is this why this happened?" That we've talked about that before, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think his basic impulse that these things are unfair is correct. I mean, they are unfair. Our government should not be taking money from some taxpayers and then handing it to private businesses in the name of economic development, especially when these deals have failed to work time and time again. It is fundamentally unfair. It's inappropriate for our government to do. Again, it shouldn't be trying to weigh the balances. It should be trying to make a good business climate for everyone. That's the appropriate way to conduct, or for states to conduct business. And by the way, that's what works. And when we look around the country, there are states that are adding jobs. Like, we pay government statistical managers good money to try and find out where there are jobs, what states are growing, what states are losing. And we find, again, the states that have the best business climates, the best tax competitiveness, are the ones that are growing the most.
What would you say? Because I get this question often, and I when I send your research out or others, well, are you just against economic growth? And that's not the case at all, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of good ideas about how to improve the state's economic climate. To cover just some of them, I think we can do better regulation of our electric utilities to have more reliable and less expensive electricity. I think we can improve our occupational licensing rules. They cover around a quarter of the workforce these days without necessarily protecting public health. There's a lot of improvements that we can make. You can check out our blueprint for improving the state's economic competitiveness on our site. And I think what you'll notice, I mean, we're very pro economic growth, but we're also trying to show ways of how government can do things better. It's not just the question of more government or less government. It is, what can we do better? Now, there's some times where we're arguing more or less, and these economic development subsidies, these selective business subsidies, are things that we can eliminate, spend that money at other places, or return it to taxpayers, and it would be a better use of
Gotcha. I got it on the screen. I'll do a link to this one as well. It's very interesting, very eye-opening as well. I want to ask you something because many people, so, I don't know numbers, but, and you've touched on this before, people have moved out of Michigan for various reasons. But it's not actually true that, oh, they just moved to Florida because of the weather, or they moved to North Carolina because of the weather, or Tennessee. I think a lot of people think, well, that's why they move, but there's other reasons, right? What's the research? I think you've written about this before as to why do people tend to move? Is it the pocketbook issues?
I mean, the biggest reasons that people move are jobs and family. But jobs are a thing that state policy gets to influence, because if you are a growing area, if you have a lot of expanding employers, you're going to have to staff them, or you're going to have to offer good paying wages. And if there aren't workers available in your local area, you got to attract them from other places. Those are things that are responsive to policy. So I can't just say there's nothing state governments could do, but we actually have a literature review about the things that matter to population growth, because the state had a commission last year to try and look at population growth. And they heard a lot of people's ideas, but they didn't actually look at the academic literature. We gave that for them. There's a lot of interesting things that are there, but jobs and family, those are the most important things. There's not necessarily a lot that state policy can do about the family side of things. Like if you need to be near, or if you want to be closer to your kids, I guess that matters too. I guess it's like if there are states that are attracting, the next generation through good employment opportunities, and parents want to move back to be closer with them, that's, I guess, something that policy can affect. But it's these secondary things. I don't think there's I mean, some people have tried of just saying we'll give new residents tax credit if they move here. I think that's going to be an expensive program that's unlikely to be effective, but that is something that some lawmakers have looked at.
Yeah, I'm here because of family. If it wouldn't have been for family, I'd probably still living in North Carolina or Pennsylvania. So that's my number one reason with family.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone's different. I mean, this is one that we have to look at, which is why it's important to look at these overall population numbers, these overall trends of like, everyone's different, but where are people moving more than others.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we see for when we look at these moves in population is that they're going to fast-growing places, and fast-growing places tend to have better business climates.
Yeah. Yeah, even Indiana is doing better than Michigan when it comes to the economic climate. Or am I correct?
I'd have to look at those numbers. So Michigan is not as bad as you might expect. We are a flat tax state. We've done a lot to keep taxes, or to avoid a lot of the high taxes that plague other places. We have a lot of good policies here. The Mackinac Center's won some important victories over our time, but there are some places that we're falling behind. So I don't. If you look at, for instance, the Tax Foundation State Tax Competitiveness Index, which again, taxes aren't the only policies that matter. We're not in the top 10, but we're above average.
Okay. Yeah, decent price of living, at least for me. I'm only speaking for myself, but I know I interviewed for a job in Washington, D.C., and I'll tell you, it's a lot more expensive than it was going to be to live there than it is here.
Yeah. I have a friend who's selling her house in Grosse Pointe, and we had some friends that were in California who just looked at that and said, "Gosh, your housing market's crazy." But I honestly think that Michigan's housing market is a little more closer to typical in most of the rest of the country, outside of these really high cost areas like New York, the District of Columbia, and some California real estate too. Exactly. I mean, we're closer to what you'd find in Missouri or Wisconsin or even Alabama.
I lived in Alabama. I love it down there. Before I let you go, there's a meeting in Genesee County. It relates to the mega site again. Capcom wrote on this. There's a school on where this mega site is, and there's a proposal for $40 million to buy this school and move it. Doesn't sound like I don't know I know this was a Capcom story, but what's your take on, they're just buying up more property with this site?
So I think this was in conjunction to try and respond to this company that asked for taxpayer support. I don't know if it's still going to happen, but I think right now, I hope the people involved do cost benefit analysis, just saying, okay, we're not, we already have a school. It's right here. It's incredible cost to move it someplace else.
Yeah.
What are the benefits that we're going to get from this? And $40 million is a lot of money. You can fill a lot of potholes in your local community for that. It would have to be some large benefit in order to pull, in order to make that worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know that paying for a company's, or paying to make a company's lot squarer is going to be a $40 billion benefit to the community.
Oh, one last thing before I let you go, because people have the time, and I've asked you before, when these deals are made, do the companies, if the deals fall through, are the companies always, are they forced to give the money back, or is that every contract different? How does that work?
So it depends on the program, and it depends on what's being offered. So let me run through the gamut of some of the things that are offered.
Yeah.
Property tax abatements. This is a huge source of favoritism, of just saying, you're a company, you get to pay, or you're a company that's moving in here, we're going to say that you pay less in property taxes for the next 15 years. That company's going to collect that regardless of how many jobs they have. There are things like tax credits that the state used to hand out, which are based on employment directly. And those ones the companies didn't get until they actually employed people. So those ones are at least tied to performance. What Michigan is doing now is with direct payments to these companies for the short term, but they do have contracts that extend over 10 years. It says, look, if you don't create the jobs that you promised us, we will ask for our money back at the end of the 10 years. So there are some clawbacks for that. We'll see whether the state enforces these if companies fail to live their expectations, because the way those deals are structured is that companies get a lot of money over the short term, and they may have to pay it back after decades passed. The last one is the ones we've been talking about here, the site preparation number. Not tied to a company's performance at all. If you spend this money, it's just gone. If the company doesn't come, that money's just gone. There are no recourses to get it back, which is why I think lawmakers should be a lot more careful about awarding site preparation money in the future, because it's structured in a way that ensures that there are taxpayer costs, regardless of whether there are economic benefits.
Yeah. What if a company doesn't come to this site? You can't, right? I mean, it's money spent, and it's just going to be just a site with nothing on it.
Yes. And again, we should expect companies to build their own factories, to do their own site preparation thing. This ought not be a function of our governments. These are private actors trying to earn private profit. That's an appropriate thing for private companies to do. We should not socialize their costs.
Gotcha. I appreciate you taking the time. First time having you on here, but you've educated us, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.